Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have with me, for their very first band interview, Minefield. The band is the brainchild of guitarist Brandon Fields, and the lineup includes Todd Kerns, Matt Starr, and Jermey Asbrock. So it's a great band, no doubt about it. I think you guys will really love their music. I'd like to thank all four of them for joining me on my show, and give a special thanks to Jermey Asbrock, who joined us after having a child less than 2 days ago. Thanks a lot, Jermey. I really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in on my conversation with all the guys from Minefield. Why don't we just jump in right now and just say, how did the project start? I think, Brandon, you and Jermey have some background together. How did this project get started?
So I went and watched Jermey's. Well, actually, do you want to take it, Jermey, since you're about to leave? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it starts with a former band of mine in 2009, and we played Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and we're rolling up, and there are these two 13, 14-year-old rock and roller kids hanging around, and like, hey, check this out. And they helped us load in, and we're cool. And, through various stages of social media, MySpace, Facebook, I don't know, Brandon always stayed in touch and kind of on my radar. And so not too long ago, he hit me up and asked if I wanted to play a solo on his next album he was going to do. And, yeah, sure. And it just turned into all this.
Absolutely. So, hey, welcome, Matt. We just jumped in here because Jermey has only about 10, 15 minutes. Some excuse about having a kid this week. I don't know.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. It's beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so great.
Yeah. So the songs on the album, who's responsible for writing the songs? Was it a mixture of all you guys? Who's responsible for that?
Well, mostly Brandon. It's mostly Brandon's fault.
Nice.
I would say probably 75 to 80% of the album. The instrumentation, I wrote most of all that. And then the songs we all sang, we obviously wrote our own melodies and lyrics through that. But I'd say a lot of the heavy lifting instrumentation-wise was done by me, because I had all this stuff, for the most part, done before I approached everybody. So I had some of the songs ready, but there's been a couple cool tracks where we've got to collaborate a little. I know there was one track that Jermey sings where I wrote the main riff, and he kind of wrote the rest of the song around it. So got some cool situations like that. So,
Very nice.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of the heavy lifting was done by me, just only for the sole fact that I had a lot of this done before I approached everybody about coming in.
Makes sense. Now, the songs I've heard so far were Todd singing, which, Todd, amazing vocals, of course, no surprise.
Oh, thank you.
Right. So, but Jermey, I guess it sounds like you're singing at least one song on the album also?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That
very
song's
cool.
badass.
What, do we know the title? Do you want to share the title?
Yeah, we can share the title.
The title is So Help Me.
Nice. Now, how do you guys... go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No.
I was going to say, how do you and Brandon decide song by song, because you're both playing guitar, who's doing the leads and who's going to play the rhythm tracks? How do you guys decide that?
Man, well, since he came up with the riffs, most of the stuff he sent, he was already playing the main riff. So it was my job to come up with a cool second guitar part, something that would counter it. So, I don't know, just something to get dimension than just one guitar.
Right.
I had complete freedom, man. He just sent me the stuff, and fortunate for me, he liked everything I sent back.
Right. Nice. So
I do like doing that, man. Actually, that's like a skill of mine more than like coming up with the main riff, is coming up with the other guitar part, something that takes it up a notch or gives it a completely different feel. Like, it could be like a pretty simple generic riff, but you can color it so that it sounds like something you've never heard before.
Absolutely. Now, the first single is Alone Together. And as soon as it starts, you hear those Matt drums just kick in with a great friggin' opening, which is to me a little like reminiscent of like Ozzy Over the Mountain. Not the same, but it has like that same like excitement as soon as you hear it. So, Matt, what were you thinking as you were playing the drums on that and kind of getting that song started?
I'll tell you exactly what I was thinking.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Look at this vinyl collection.
What is that like?
What up? I'm coming over to your house.
Yeah, please.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I was
there you
thinking
go.
this. So on the demo that Brandon had sent me, there was a count-in, and he was just, probably just waiting to play and just did a pick slide. So this is like, and so when I heard that, I thought, well, the beginning of Stargazer has that great cozy intro, and then there's this Blackmore's doing this pick slide. So I just heard, and then when the song came in, I'm like, oh, that actually kind of fits. So I did, my own version of it, but that was kind of the sentiment of it. And what I learned from tracking a long time ago is if the guitar starts the song, okay. But if everyone starts together, I'm going to put something in the beginning. Now, and if no one says anything, it starts with the drums. So, and I did that. The first time that dawned on me was "Give Me a Feeling," which was a tune on one of the Ace records, and it just started. So I just did this lick at the top, and no one said anything. So I'm like, cool, start with the drums. So. Occasionally it's cool to start it with everybody, but that was kind of my thought. I was like, well, if I can get it in, why not? So.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, you and Jeremy obviously play with Ace. Jeremy, Matt, have any of you guys ever recorded or jammed together before this?
Yeah. So Todd and I have some history of playing together in raiding the Rock Vault in both Branson and you were singing when I played in Vegas, right?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, buddy.
What a bizarre experience that Branson thing is, though, huh?
it was like a little time warp thing, and it was the greatest experience. It was kind of like going if you went into the set of the Andy Griffith show, but in the greatest way. I mean, just the sweetness, the simpleness, the down to earth people and the characters. I mean, and when they brought us in, we were like, we were a big deal to them. Yeah, they really rolled out the red carpet. It was so wonderful. But yeah, so anyway. I got the
My favorite quote, though, is they say Branson is like Vegas as seen through the eyes of Ned Flanders on The Simpsons.
Totally.
It has that kind of vibe. It's really family friendly, but it's like Vegas, but it's there's all stuff going on.
Right.
Blast, though, yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you've never ridden a mountain coaster, you haven't done shit. Because a mountain coaster is exactly what it sounds like. You are sitting on a metal thing that's on a track, and you're just on a hill, and you just go down into the woods.
Yeah, it's
wow.
You don't know where you're going. You're just zoom, and it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah. So Todd and I played together, and had Jeremy, have you and Todd, have you guys done anything together before?
No, we were familiar through Brent Fitz and the Gene, and then eventually Ace thing. Yeah, so
right.
Hey, that's not true. You guys have performed together live.
I agree.
Jeremy did get up and sing.
Background vocals on the Bruce.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Is that a baby?
You can go.
Oh, that's your.
No, this is my oldest.
There we go. There's the more important
What's
stuff.
up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Big brother.
Yeah,
stuff
it's funny. Whenever I watch this interview back, and you guys can see that I'm moving and stuff, but I'm always gonna think about what I was doing right now. It's pretty funny, actually. You guys don't want to know.
All right, now I kind of feel like I want to know.
Now we know.
Kind of dude.
It is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
un-rock and roll thing on the planet.
Oh,
There's
man.
nothing less rock and roll than what I'm doing right now.
I love it. I love it.
Well, being a new father and other things will do that to you, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So the song kicks in, like we said, with the drums, and then Todd, your voice comes in. Absolutely amazing vocal on the song. We've seen you on the Kiss cruise, a lot of Kiss fans. I know you've sung in other areas as well. And to me, I just heard that, and I just get freaking super excited. Yeah, this is cool. So talk about doing the songs and the vocal tracks for the album.
Well, I have to say it. You know, Matt is responsible for a lot of the initial excitement in that song, like you say. When you hear those kind of songs like Stargazer or Over the Mountain, those kind of things, that really does set up a song. I think your instincts are correct, Matt. Anytime it's Ace Frehley, I don't care who it is, just do your thing. Just you should drop down 1 million marbles from the sky on the drum kit. Just exactly. But no, it's so epic that you're just like, something very crazy is going to happen right now. So you know, it was the same thing. Literally, Jermey and Matt reached out to me, both going like, "Hey, we're doing this thing. What do you think?" And I'm kind of like, literally sitting on the couch watching, you know, Game of Thrones for the 100th time. What are you talking about, man? You know, okay, fine. And I go into my little studio and start. Well, then eventually Brandon and I touch base and start sending over things. What was the first thing we wrote, Brandon? Was it Home?
Yeah, Home was the first one.
Home, Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, but you sent me both those demos for those in the same night for the first time after you had done them. You sent me Home first, and then I think you finished doing Seventh Heaven, and then sent me that one. But Home was the first one, and I think that's the one that kind of just got us all like, hey, let's just do about 8 more of these.
Yeah, it started as kind of like, would you like to sing a song on this? I think it was like a song. And then, well, who's playing bass on this? And they're like, no one. And I go, well, I'll play bass on this. Okay? So that kind of just worked its way out. And then Alone Together was a similar thing. He sent over the thing, and I just sort of did my thing. And you know, it's so funny how things just kind of, the chemistry of people, you know, just kind of works in some occasions. There are times you'll do stuff like that, and it's kind of, But in this instance, it was just kind of like, first of all, I didn't really know Brandon very well, but we've gotten to know each other pretty well. I still haven't seen Brandon in person yet. I'm not really sure. I'm not even really sure if he's a real person. He could be created by Lucasfilm or something. But,
this is all part of Phil Schaus's green screen.
That's great.
You pull off the mask and Phil Schaus. Whoa! Otherwise, yeah, we just kind of like, you know, just knocking ideas together, and yeah, it worked out really great.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Home, so while I have Jermey, I just want to jump to that for a minute. So, yeah, I've heard a little bit of that. Brandon shared that with me a little bit. Amazing song. The harmonies on that were absolutely incredible. I'm assuming, Todd, it's you, it's Jermey. Who's singing the harmonies on that? Because that was amazing.
It's probably mostly me. I mean, we were all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, we didn't really do any singing together.
Really? Okay.
Bye, bud.
That's all, Todd.
Here we go. Jeremy's off to the post office now.
There you go.
I think he's running away from home, actually.
I wanted so badly to sing on Jeremy's song because it's so bitchy.
With me.
What
was that, Jeff?
Thanks, man. I did too. I wanted to see what our voices sounded like together.
Well, we will.
Hey, we can still make it happen.
Yeah, we still can. Yeah, I mean, it's never too.
I mean, I'm hearing you guys now, and it sounds amazing. So
Matt sings too. Matt, we
got to get Matt to sing a song too, because we were talking about that. So.
Matt would sing Hotel California every night when we were in Branson together.
Well, I remember.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember when I saw the Ace 78 show in New Jersey, Matt, and you sang, what was it, Wiped Out?
Wiped Out. Yeah.
Oh, shit, nice.
Yeah, that was my bright idea, to do a completely syncopated drum beat and then a vocal that does not line up with it at all.
Yeah, so maybe we got to get your vocal on a song as well with these guys.
Let's
absolutely.
Do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Now, the new single, if I'm understanding properly, Brandon, like, didn't I see you posted something, you started to get some international airplay on it?
Yeah, it got service to radio actually on the 4th, I think, whenever they announced the pre-orders. So it was already getting played in like Australia. It got played a lot over in the UK,
Nice.
A couple other places like Greece, Germany. You know, so Golden Robot, I have to give them kudos on their PR because they're killing it, getting it out there for a brand new group. We seem to be getting a decent amount of press for this. So
yeah,
got to give them thanks for everything they're doing on their end.
Absolutely. Now, I know I spoke with you, Brandon, I guess back at the end of June, and at the time it was still called the Brandon Fields Project, right? And then now it's Minefield. So who came up with the band name Minefield?
That was me.
Okay.
And it was funny because what happened was once we got the deal with Golden Robot, And the situation had kind of changed too. It wasn't necessarily where these guys were just coming in for a guest appearance like originally planned.
Right.
So it turned into more of where we've got 4 guys that are on every track on the album with maybe 2 other guests. So Golden Robot kind of pitched the idea of, hey, what if we put an actual band name on this? And I kind of agreed at that point because the whole situation had changed. It had blossomed into a whole new monster. So I had actually submitted a name to them, and just the whole next day, that name was just in my head. You know how just trying to come up with a band name, all of them sound terrible, and all the good ones have been taken by at least 50 bands already. And then Todd was the first one I texted the name Minefield to. I was just like, hey man, what do you think about this? Because it was supposed to already been done. I had already told the label, and he was like, that's great. And then send it to Jermey. He's like, I think that's the best one so far. So ended up having to email the label and be like, hey, you know that name that I gave you like yesterday, I'm gonna need you to go back and change everything. So
well, it went from Brandon Fields to Minefield.
Exactly what I was gonna say.
It's kind of like genius. I thought, well, it all kind of comes together, doesn't it?
Yep.
I kind of encouraged him to keep his last name as part of the name.
There you go.
There were a bunch of other names that he was throwing at me, and I'm like, man, you should really keep the Field thing part of it. You know, ultimately it is Brandon's project. You know, he put it together, and you know, if all of our gigs start back up, you know, he can still have that band. You know?
Totally, yeah. This has turned into an action episode now.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Like the Tennessee Highway Patrol.
This is without a doubt my first podcast from a car.
Yeah. Cops,
don't text and drive.
We should have all gotten our cars.
Oh man, that's great. So now the guitar solo on the song, Brandon, is that you? Is that Jermey? Who did the guitar solo on the song?
That's me on the first single.
Nice. Great job on that. Absolutely great job on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, Matt, you always talk about... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
That was really it. That was...
Oh, okay.
Much more to add.
I was going to say, Matt, you always talk about playing for the song, and that's one of the things to me on this song. It starts with that big drum intro that we spoke about, and the verses are like a little funky, I'll say, a little like an Extreme meets King's X type of thing, and the chorus is just like straightforward rock, and you kind of go in and out of that seamlessly throughout the song. So talk about that.
Well, when you play a big, like, 2-measure drum fill at the beginning, you kind of don't have to do much the rest of the song. You sort of made your point, and then you can, like, you know, okay, now I'm just going to say it. But look, his riffs, the riffs in all the music for all of it is really strong. So that kind of plays itself for me. But yeah, that verse had that kind of sexy waka chicka waka thing going on. So I love playing on the toms. You know, any chance I can get to get away from the cymbals is cool. And so I did that, and then I was hearing this. We're gonna put a shaker in there too to keep it moving. And then I heard this little cowbell thing in my head, and I said, let's just overdub this, and it just kind of turned into this thing, which is cool. And then the choruses are, you know, the melodies. I'd heard some of the vocals before I cut it, but I didn't know everything. So then when I heard it back, I was like, oh my God, wow. You know, like I knew Todd was a great singer, but I didn't know the extent of all the melodies. And I'm so glad, again, I tend to not play a lot, but I'm so glad I didn't, because there's just so many good melodies. Like I could have played less and it would have been fine. You know what I mean? So,
obviously.
Yeah. So that was,
so then, yeah, dude, like the whole Tom thing you just explained, that inspired that wah part that I put down. Like if you played something different, then I would not have picked a wah to go over all that funky stuff that you would put down.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's funny how it all. I said the waka chicka. I think that's what I heard in my head, and I didn't realize it wasn't actually there. So I played to something that wasn't there, and then Jermey thought like, okay, hey, maybe we should put this because now I'm used. So, yeah.
Right. So obviously you guys are influenced by Kiss, Guns N' Roses, Van Halen. I know those are all your influences. A lot of people haven't heard, obviously, the full 8 songs. How would you describe the sound of the album? What would you say it sounds like to you?
Well, I think that I'll just jump on it myself.
Yeah.
There's elements of like Jeremy's song has a big old Thin Lizzy vibe to it.
Nice.
It's all very classic. You know what I mean? Like I think Home has elements of Queen in it with those harmonies and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So Aerosmith in there, I think, is probably a pretty good indication. But it's funny because I played Alone Together for Chris Jericho. I'm dropping names. Watch your feet.
Careful, Jeremy, while you're driving.
And he goes, and Chris is the best because he doesn't just listen to it. He'll write you back like a dissertation of what he thought. And he was like, this is great. And his quote was, oddly enough, he said, it reminds me of King's X meets Cheap Trick. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting.
King's X seems to be the biggest name that people have been associating it with, which is fucking awesome to me because King's X is one of my favorite bands of all time. So, and they're our label mates on Golden Robot now, so that's exciting. So I'll take all those King's X references people want to throw at us.
Absolutely. Now the song.
I'm not gonna lie, I did steal some guitar flourishing for Alone Together from the Motley '94 album. I did. I totally did.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great album.
Yeah, it is.
That's all right. Nikki won't acknowledge it enough to be able to sue you for it. So.
Now we mentioned before the song "Home," which to me it's another one, Matt, where you kind of come in and out of that song with the verses and the chorus, and it just adds such a feel, such an element to that song, which I think was. It's probably with the songs I've heard, and Brandon's been kind enough to share with me a few samples. To me, it might be the favorite one I've heard so far, and those drums going in and out to me really adds an element to that song.
Yeah. Again, I think when it's a well-written song, and even and by song, it may just be a bunch of riffs, parts. I mean, when we do the Ace records and the original stuff, he rarely even has a title. I'm just playing the riffs, and I go, okay, I guess this is the chorus. So, you just kind of get your instincts, and then again, I just try and find some sort of signature thing, like the Waka Chicka thing, okay, is this a Latin thing? Is there a sentiment to this? Is this angry? Is it lilting? Is it just some adjective or thing that I can kind of zone into and go, okay, I'll pull from that, and usually it works. And so again with Home, that was kind of the same type of thing,
Without a doubt. I know, Jeremy, you and Matt obviously have recorded together with Ace Frehley. How was the recording process for you different this time around? I'm assuming it's very different.
Actually, it's not very different because both times I recorded from my kitchen.
Oh, man.
So it's exactly the same, honestly.
That's very interesting. And while we're chatting, Jeremy, I know there's a lot of talk about Ace's new album. I got to ask you, just to divert us for a moment, how did you end up playing on the first song there, the Led Zeppelin song? Because I know I've had a lot of fans say, why did Ace give up the first lead solo on an album to Jeremy? What's up with that? How'd that come about?
Well, when he asked me to do it, the album was not sequenced, so it wasn't the first song on the album. And they had gotten a solo from another guest who is considerably more famous than me. I will not say who it is, but
that's our friend.
They weren't really crazy about what he played, so I met Alex, the producer, when we played Westchester, and kind of about a week later, he's like, "Hey man, you think you could do a cool solo on this?" And I pretty much stuck exactly to what Jimmy Page played. I mean, I can't play exactly like him because I'm not Jimmy Page, but I didn't really deviate from what he plays. On the outro where Ace is ad-libbing, I did ad-lib a little bit there. But
Well, for me, it's my favorite song on the album, for whatever that's worth.
Thank you.
I think
it turned out great.
I think it's amazing.
I've read some chatter. Some people aren't crazy about the way he sings it, but I think with the key change and the range, I think it sounds great.
Absolutely.
It sounds like Ace. That's what I like about it.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like Ace. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, Brandon, I know another song you've played for me is Seventh Heaven, right? Which to me has like a Slaughter meets Kiss, but in 2020. It's not 1990, right? It's 2020. Todd's vocals, again, just kind of come through that song in a tremendous way. So talk about that song a little bit.
For me, it was like, because Brandon sent that riff, and it was just like slamming. I definitely had like a Guns thing to it, like, and that kind of thing. And I thought, I don't usually sing in that world. I mean, I do, and I love singing in that AC/DC kind of, when you listen to Back in Black, you're like, Brian just goes, it's just like his first album, he just went all the way. And I thought, if we're going to do this, at the time it was just this project and I was just singing a song or a couple songs. I thought, well, let's just go over the top with this and really, take it home. And it's really unashamed, tribute to those days and to that kind of thing. So, but to me, it's always more AC/DC and Guns N' Roses, but people will probably hear, a lot more of a sort of time and a place. Mark Slaughter's a great reference too, though. I think Mark's amazing.
Right? Yeah. No. And
Man,
I love the
I totally approached this song as AC/DC. I dialed in like a clean Malcolm tone, and
that rhythm track is great.
All of my second guitar parts are. It's me being Malcolm Young.
Yeah, totally. And I'm playing the bass. I simplified the bass in certain areas because I just thought it should have that Cliff Williams, like the note should just hold while the guitar parts are moving around it.
Sure.
So I think we were all kind of on the right page with that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was whenever you sent me the demo for that, you were like, I hope you like it. I really embraced the rock on this one, so.
Yeah, it's absolutely like, it's like one of those songs where you're kind of like, what's currently cool and hip? It doesn't matter. We're going to do this now.
Right,
so it's kind of like, it's really good. It's a kind of song you put on that just crashes the party 100%.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what I liked about it, is that it brought me back to a time of music that I loved as a kid, but it sounded current. It sounded relevant. It sounded like I said, it was like 2020, but it threw me back to an older time, which was really cool.
I think that's exactly what we were going for on that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jermey actually takes the main solo on that one now. I think the demo you've got was one that I had laid a lead down on, but on the final version, that's going to be Jeremy's solo on that.
Nice. Okay. So do you guys have individually a favorite song from the project, from the album?
Mine's definitely Home.
Home.
Yeah,
Home's great. I always go back to listening to Jeremy's song.
Jeremy's song is great too, and we have to give thanks to Mr. Alex Kane.
Alex Kane. Yeah, man, I reached out to him to help me a little bit with lyrics for that. I had a chorus, but I didn't have any verses, and I reached out to him, and he got me what I needed. I altered a few things, not many at all. And honestly, I have to think, Brandon, I don't really write a whole lot, and this was an excuse to write something. And I thought the collection needed a Thin Lizzy-esque thing with, harmony guitars and stuff, because Brandon's a good player, and I kind of do a lot of that with the residency. It's something I'm
people love that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that's the first thing I thought whenever I heard that was Thin Lizzy, just for those harmony guitars. It's great.
And with that riff that he sent me, I guess it wasn't necessarily Thin Lizzy, but then I put this rolling bass line over it and thought, all right, there's like kind of a Lizzy groove now. And wrote that harmony guitar hook thing. And man, the next thing I knew, I had a song, and even I still kind of like it. But as far as my favorites, man, Home is pretty epic.
It is an epic song, that's for sure.
I'm really excited for that being the second single. I think that's going to be Alone Together was a really good song to come out of the gate with and get people hype, and because it's up tempo, it's rocking. Matt's drums fucking kick you in the face as soon as it starts.
It kind of feels like Home is that song. Hopefully we can all get together by then, because it really should be made on a mountaintop, a music video.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
A mountaintop or a strip mall at least.
Hey, I'm good either way.
Oh, that's great. Matt, do you have a favorite on the album?
Yeah, I would say Home. I mean, and again, just if I had to just pick one song. But yeah, they all had stuff that I could really dig into. And my thing is always giving each song its own identity. And sometimes it's just like a slight little tweak this way or that way, because you don't want to lose the essence. But they all had their own identity from the beginning. So that made it just that much easier. So each one has its own thing, which is really cool. But yeah, I got to just say, like, Home is that big epic thing that you always hope you can get a couple of those in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Brandon, no pressure, but if you're going to do a video, you got to live up to the hype here, right? Because everybody's saying what a great song. So no pressure.
We actually are working on a video right now for Alone Together. Todd's buddy Jimmy that he introduced me to, who actually did a lot of the production for Todd's stuff.
Yeah.
He's going to be helping put together a video that we're doing with some like green screen effects, to kind of help out with the distance. So,
Actually, the coolest thing about this, I was talking to Jimmy about this the other day. Jimmy Romero is my production partner, and he's actually a director and a all-around really talented guy. He's a great kisser. Don't ask me why I know. Just kidding. Don't tell my wives. No, just kidding. But I said to him, I go, the interesting thing about this is if we make the video, the song's called Alone Together, and none of us will actually be in the same room, and we're all alone together. I thought, that's so, and I felt so clever. He didn't. Yeah. So
symbolism.
Any idea what?
Clever.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, I thought it was too.
That's always the interesting thing about that lyric in and of itself is supposed to be how interesting that when you hear the term alone together, it's really kind of felt like one of those really topical things in the social distancing.
Agreed.
Although it's a relationship kind of song, to me it kind of felt like this bizarre thing of how we're always together in some form via, your phone. I feel like that in life, actually. I feel like I'll run into somebody and they'll be like, oh, hey, dude, I haven't seen you in like 3 months. And I'll go, but I talk to them on text like every day, and I kind of go, oh yeah, I guess we haven't physically seen each other, although I'm aware of every single moment of your life and mine, And so it's this weird time that we live in where we're kind of like not together, but we're always together in at the same time. So that's kind of what the idea was.
Absolutely, I agree. Like you said before, Todd, you haven't even actually met Brandon in person yet, so it's
we're like writing songs together, and and some of my favorite songs I've ever been a part of, and I think that's really says a lot. Like when you've sat in rooms together in sweaty rehearsal rooms and knocked out music with other guys, and then like in this instance, it's sort of maybe it does create the space where I can kind of sit here and kind of stroke my beard a bit and go, well, what if I did this, and then. Because we're sending demos back and forth, and if there's any suggestions on A, B, or C, it's it's dealt with or whatever. But mostly it's just magic when you can make music with guys that you respect as much as. Well, I always loved Jeremy and I always loved Matt, and now I love Brandon too.
And
it's just about the kids.
Jeremy, I got to meet Matt a little. I got to meet him backstage at the Whitesburg show with Ace, and. It's kind of a funny story because I had my pass that they hooked me up with to be back there, and it was after the show, and Matt was standing there with Phil, and Jeremy had to go do something, so I kind of just like waddled over to where Matt was at and started talking to him for maybe like 10 seconds and was like, hey man, good show, and we shook hands and everything, and then one of the security guards just comes swooping in and says like, hey man, why don't you go stand back over there? So, it was funny that's my first instance with Matt, and now we're recording this album together on the label.
To be fair, that's the exact same experience I have with Matt every time too. I'm always kept away by security.
The same security guy, yeah,
exactly. I think I'm the only guy that's met everybody in the band and like has been in a situation in person with them.
You're the impetus. Yeah, you're the guy.
Yeah, well, he's obviously not that impetus because he just had a baby. So,
well, that's true. I think that's a different word. It's basically it's Jeremy's fault because if he had never met Brandon might have went on to have a nice life as an accountant.
Right, that's true.
Because of Jeremy, he's playing rock and roll, and it's all down from here.
That's really funny. And the ironic part, Todd, you wouldn't know this. I'm actually an accountant. Talk about boring life. Talk about a boring life, right?
No, not at all. I always say to my accountant, I want to put his 8x10 on my wall because I'm always like, I know musicians, I know what we're doing. I don't know what you're doing, and I want your
trust me, you don't want to. Trust me. If you learned, you'd say, "No, take the photo down." Absolutely, guarantee.
I disagree.
Guarantee. So obviously, with Jeremy, Matt, you guys have worked with Ace, Gene Simmons, Todd. You obviously have worked with Slash. Brandon, you're in a Guns N' Roses pretty tight up band, right? Is there any Kiss or Guns N' Roses cover tune on this album here?
Let's let Matt talk about this one.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt. The floor is yours.
Well, not yet, but there has been talk of a couple possibilities. Yeah.
We're gonna reenact Kiss Meets the Phantom, the film, the four of us. It's going to be
right. But I'm gonna play an Asian black guy in a stunt. That's actually I'm not
that's your character.
I'm
That
a
one.
stunt guy.
And only the diehard fans get that reference, but that's awesome. That is
Right,
awesome.
yeah, totally. No, Brandon, do you wanna let them? I don't know.
Yeah,
if we're talking about it or not.
No, yeah, we were gonna let everybody know today. So
Cool.
just to let everybody know, the three of us four of us obviously know. So we're doing a fourth single the day the album drops, which we're not going to give the date out yet.
Mhm.
But so we are going to record a cover of Kiss's All American Man on the
Nice.
fourth single the day the album drops. So it was a situation where. So with the label, our kind of plan at the moment was we were going to kind of milk the singles until kind of everything started to go back to normal, and then because you don't want to put the album out and then it be another year before you can go out and tour for it.
Mm-hmm.
So when this first started, the timeline was a little different. Now that we're a little farther into it, we decided to do 4 singles. So I thought, what better way, since we were doing that, to kind of do a Kiss cover, because we all like Kiss so much. So
Absolutely.
I figure especially that tune. It's a great tune.
Mm-hmm.
The way Bob Kulick starts that solo by just grabbing the string off the neck is just one of the most
Love
badass things
Mhm.
ever.
It really is, yeah.
And there's that
Yeah,
video
that's
where he's
great.
doing like the guitar instruction from like 2004 or 5, where he's talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he even admits, like when he does, he's like, I start the solo in this really dumb, unconventional way. And it's awesome hearing him talk about it like that. And that's that whole side 4 with all those the studio songs. I wish they would have just cut a full album
Agreed.
at that
I
time.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I know.
Those
agreed.
were great tunes.
Agreed.
They really are.
Agreed. And now, Todd, didn't you do that on, I think it was Kiss Cruise 7? If I'm not mistaken, you guys, when you played with Bruce, Bruce and Bob that year, you opened up with that song, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It was so much fun, and I mean, honestly, once in a while I have to stop. I'm sure I always talk to Matt and Jeremy about this, just the idea of like standing on stage and you look over and you go, that's Gene Simmons right there, or that's Ace Frehley right there.
Mhm.
Like it's like when I'm playing with Slash and he decides to do the solo for Sweet Child of Mine.
Right.
Once in a while, I've been with him for 10 years, so once in a while it just gets lost on you. But once in a while I'll stand there and I go, that's the guy. I mean,
Right.
I've done that song since high school in every possible cover band situation, but once in a while you go, hey, that's the guy who played this solo. That's
Mhm.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
So with Bruce and Bob, it was like getting to do those songs, and like Brandon says, that side 4, like that stuff, that original stuff is so in my DNA
Mm-hmm.
that when Bob lays into those solos, it's like, that's the guy.
Right.
So we've all played those in one fashion or another, but when he plays it, it's like he has the hands,
Mm-hmm.
And God love him, he was just in many ways an underrated guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that
Absolutely.
and I think that he I think that moment at that cruise was such a nadir of his getting to finally show the world what he could do, and I'm so happy to have been a part of that.
Absolutely. It's one of the things being on the cruise that year myself. I remember where I was standing in the crowd. I remember that show as if it happened 2 minutes ago, and I still get goosebumps thinking about that show. So, I haven't had a chance to talk to you ever one-on-one, but amazing job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are so much fun, honestly. And I was just saying to somebody the other day how, whenever we go to put those songs, because as a fan, you're always thinking, well, of course, I love these songs.
Right.
But I'm kind of thinking, does anybody else really care if we play Turn On the Night?
Yeah.
I'm kind of and then you go out and play the Kiss Cruise, and not only do they care, you cannot dig deep enough.
Right.
It's like Nowhere to Run,
Mhm.
like Bob Kulick solo
Mhm.
on that and all that kind of stuff. And that's the cool thing about the Kiss family tree now, that Matt and Jeremy and myself in a much further way kind of like I'm more like a tiny sapling on a branch beside the tree somewhere. But having been part of that thing, and being fans like we are, there's a Kiss pinball machine in the next room and Kiss guitars
About
over
30
here,
feet to my left, the Kiss pinball machines.
Beautiful. The 79 one.
Of course.
Yeah.
No
It's
reason to get the other one.
I know. My friend, I'm dropping names. Look out, Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch
Mhm.
always tells me, you got to get the new machine. It's way better. And I go, I have no connection to that machine.
Right.
This machine was the machine when I was a kid, I would sit there and walk into the arcade, and it would just from the other side of the room was like, "Oh, what?" So to actually have one in my house is I always stop and kind of go, and I always say to my wife, I'm sorry it's in the middle of the kitchen.
Sorry it's on your side of the bed.
It's like in our living room, and it's such a like piece of the house, and she's so awesome that she's like, no, it's a great piece. She doesn't have the connection that I have to that particular machine, but it's just such like a, you know. And then I got these other guys, Mark Tremonti or Slash, they all have like multiple pinball machines, and they're like, you got to get this machine, you got to get that machine. I'm kind of like, I just don't have the connection to those machines.
Right.
Maybe Captain Fantastic, maybe the Weekend Warriors one, like when we were kids, those were like so rad, but that one is the one.
Right, right. Absolutely. Now, Matt, I have to ask you, we're talking about collecting things. How many albums do you have?
I know.
Right? Thousands? How many?
This is about 3,000.
Damn.
Behind me, which it actually doesn't look like it. Anytime I look, I go, that's 3,000. I go, okay, fine. But yeah. So yeah, there's 3,000. Oh, Sarah Tomek just messaged me.
Hey, Sarah. Is it alphabetized?
Yeah. Nashville. Yeah, it's alphabetized.
I figured it had to be. He got that Rainbow album too quick.
I know. I was going to say.
Yeah, and then it goes to classical, jazz, kids records, compilations, and then comedy. So, yeah.
And man, I've seen Matt's collection, and you know, mine's about the same size, and we actually, the order is the same. I do mine the same. I'm alphabetical, chronological, and then it's all by genre.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Wow. You got to know. Well, man, you got to know where to look when you're looking through that many records.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Although I it's the amount of nights I've just stood here and thought, what do I want to listen to? How about not that. Nah. And I'm like, dude, will you just please pull a record off the show? Like, I'll sit there for like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dark Side of the Moon.
That's the problem with having quantity is you can get lost in choices.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Matt has an awesome listening section in his house. Like, I am so envious of that. Like, just a spot where you can sit in the middle of the room with killer speakers and, like, focus listen on a record.
Amazing.
It's killer.
Especially when I turn this room into.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, but talking about the having too many choices, it is true because we did a cross-country trip, and I thought I'll be okay without my records and everything. And then like 2 days went by, I'm like, I'm going to Target and to get a little turntable and a suitcase. And so then I got this Johnny Winter record, still alive and well. So I got this. But all I did, there was no choice. I just listened to it over and over and over again. We spent 4 days in Vegas, and went through some other shops, and I got a couple other records, Yes record and the Scorpions and some other things. But yeah, I only had 3 records, so it was like, well, the choice wasn't that hard, you know. But then you got all these, and you just stand there staring, like, you know, your brain just freezes over. So, but yeah, no, this is my, you know, it's funny because as a kid, I liked collecting baseball cards, but I didn't have any attachment to sports. But I like, oh, I got the this one, I got that one, you know, and so I, you know, was kind of a Kiss collector, and then I realized, probably about 10 years ago, I had a pretty good collection of stuff. And I kept telling myself, one day I'll have a house where I'll hang up all these things. Okay, no self-respecting woman is going to allow me to hang up all that shit. You know what I mean? And, you know, the garbage can, like, where do you put it? I mean, you know, so I let it all go, but the records I keep, and I don't, you know, I'll get, like, if I'm in Japan and I have a favorite record, I'll buy a Japanese copy of it. I'll buy a UK pressing. If it's one of my, like, Cheap Trick at Budokan, I think I got like 8 copies.
Nice.
Aerosmith Live bootleg, I got like 7 copies. But that's a little bit of the collector, although they do all sound a little different, so I can justify it. But I will not, I don't just buy something and then leave it on the shelf sealed. Like, I'm going to listen to it, and if I don't listen to it, then I you know, so I have to use it. You know, and I have a rule, too, that if I buy a record, I have to listen to it before I put it on the shelf.
Okay.
Even if I already know the record, I got to listen to front and back one time, and then I may never listen to it again, but just then it goes on the shelf.
I'm starting to get that way with guitars, dude, because I've got guitars in storage, and it's the same thing now. It's like I'm starting to get that thing of like, if I'm not playing these guitars, I'm not like, you know, showing them love, then somebody else should be showing them love. My wife's always like, oh, no, you can't get rid of that one. That one's the one from And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I can't get her down because that's the one with that thing. But it's really, you know, because I'm like that with guitars. I was like, just, you know, yes, I'll take that. Ooh, that's nice. I'll take that. And then you get home and you realize you probably could do a gig with, I could live the rest of my life with probably 3 or 4 guitars and never run out of, you know, obviously basses and guitars. But it becomes a thing of like, where you're like, oh my God, I just have so, and again, thankfully I have an understanding wife because there's pinball machines and guitars everywhere and records and action figures and nonsense. It's like living with a 15-year-old in an arrested state of development.
Absolutely. Well, we have some prints of, you know, famous photographs from the photographers signed, and they're, you know, they're valuable, right? But I just said to my wife, I go, this is just an excuse to put posters on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we have the shot from Morrison Hotel signed by Henry Diltz. It's beautiful, framed, awesome. But I go, it's an adult poster. Right. You know what I mean? So I can't hang up the Farrah Fawcett poster, or the Gene Simmons or the Kiss motorcycle poster. But I can hang up this and be somewhat classy. So yeah.
Well, maybe you need to get prints of those.
If you found the original photographer of
exactly,
that poster, I'm thinking of you, brother.
Yeah, I like how you think.
You know what else I think somebody needs to get for you, Matt? That Kiss portable record player from the 70s. And I think you bring that on the road with you, and then you can play your albums everywhere you go.
There you go.
That's what I did. You know, I got a turntable, brought it to Japan, because when I go there, would start going there with Mr. Big, I would bring an extra suitcase, empty, just because I knew I was going to fill it up with records. So, and so I had this turntable, and I got an adapter, which I thought was a transformer. So Japan is Japan 220 or Japan's like 100 or something?
That's something weird.
Yeah, it's something slightly up.
Right, it's something weird. So there, it was like running a little slow.
It's
easy for him to say. Yeah, so it was, it like barely worked there, and then Europe, it just went poof, and I was like, and I realized this is an adapter, so you can plug in. It doesn't do anything with the amount of current that's coming through. So I sent 220 into a 110, and it just fried it. So anyway, I'm gonna have to adjust that next time we get on the road. But I did have fun with that little record player. But yeah, if anyone wants to get me the Kiss little suitcase turntable, I'll take great care of it.
Me too. Actually, if you can find 4 or 5.
There you go. Yeah, I need one also. So get 5. Well, Brandon, you know what I think you need to do now? You need to get a Minefield album put together to add to Matt's collection.
There you go.
It's going to be on. It'll be on vinyl whenever the album actually comes out. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. One of the albums I got on display is one of my band's albums on vinyl. So I'm a huge vinyl head, as you can see all that shit behind me. So it being on vinyl is something that is very important to me, and I'm very excited about it because, you know, it's just having the record is a whole other experience. You get to see the artwork, you get to open it up, and it's a whole deal. It's not just click and play on your phone and that's the end of it. It's like, no, my daily routine is coming out here in the morning and doing these daily vinyl posts where I just throw a record on, and for the first 30-40 minutes of my day, it's just listening to records. So I think you get a whole other experience with that you can't replicate with anything else, and it kind of just, you know, takes it to the whole next level.
Absolutely.
Such an interesting thing to hear from a guy from his generation, isn't it? Because he's like, you know, we grew up in this shit, and I'm like, I used to get in trouble because I had like ADD. If I put on a side of an album, I couldn't pick it up. Like I had to listen at least to that side of the album. So I'd be late for school every day because I couldn't help it. I had Song Remains the Same on, and I put that side, you know, the Dazed and Confused side. That's a lot. It's only one song. It's like all Dazed and Confused on one side of the album. It's like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, and like skipping around is so hard that you wouldn't bother doing it because it's a pain in the ass.
No, I mean, you would actually know, like, as kids, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, I'll hear a random song on the radio or something, and I'll know exactly what the next song is playing after it from listening to vinyl. Like you just kind of have that sense of like the way it was structured, where even cassettes or even 8-tracks for that matter, back in those days, they were not structured to find individual songs until compact discs. Then you were like, then kids would walk up to me and go, I like your new album. I like song number 3. And I go, well, it has a title.
No, it's funny that you say that, because to me, I was just watching an Ozzy thing the other night, and they were playing on it, Revelation Mother Earth, and the song ended, and then it just ended on the show I was watching. I was like, well, where's Steal Away the Night? That comes next. that's just part of the listening experience here. So to me, that was part of what I loved about vinyl, and what I'm hearing, Matt, as you were talking, is that it's all part of that experience, right? It's just listening, putting the needle down and listening to it from beginning to end.
You don't usually, like, when I put on records, I put on the record, I, put it on, and then I'm kind of like, and then I find myself sitting there and actually looking at the stuff, and like I used to, Whereas, like, with anything else, like if it's just playing, streaming, whatever in my house, that's when I'm like doing something, I'm like moving some stuff around, cleaning up, whatever. But it doesn't seem like the vinyl experience is more like you sit down and you kind of immerse yourself in the experience, like Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall, or one of those like extensive kind of like things. But I'm so ADD, I can't listen to like side 1 of The Wall without, well, we're here for all 4 sides now. So.
Right. Absolutely.
It's gonna be get your popcorn. It's gonna be a long one.
Exactly.
So Brandon, it sounds like then you're saying the vinyl will come out at the same time when the record's ready to drop. We don't have a release date though, you were saying on that just yet?
It'll be early 2021.
Excellent.
So about almost springtime. So hopefully we can get some shows lined up for, summer next year, spring, or I'll be thankful for any time if we can get some shows on the books. So yeah. And not even just necessarily with this band, just getting back out there in general. So hopefully by next year, even if it's not a Minefield tour or something like that, hopefully all 4 of us are out on the road doing something with somebody. So that's kind of my goal. And if it is this band, even better. But I think everybody's main goal right now is they just want to get back on stage in some fashion. So if it's this band, great. If
my
it's
main
not,
goal is to get some sleep.
Yeah, sleep. Oh man, you signed on for a long one. That's great. So how old is the baby right now as we're talking?
Less than 48 hours.
Damn.
36 hours or so.
That's not a digital problem. That's great.
He's really tired.
So tired.
I don't blame you, brother.
Honestly, I feel like I'm stoned, and I have not smoked any weed. and zombified.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Well, Jeremy, didn't you also just recently with the Rock and Roll Residency, didn't you put out an EP as well?
Yes, we did.
How could fans find that?
Actually, I think it. Man, you can find it anywhere. Anywhere where you download or stream music, you will find it.
Okay.
and that's the with 2 E's. Otherwise, you might get some other Rock and Roll Residency.
Exactly.
The rock and roll.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like being on this many recorded release things in this short amount of time, it's like more than I've done in the last 10 years.
Right?
So that is one. If there are any pros to the pandemic, is it's definitely like up my recorded output game.
It has, yeah. I think it's actually like, without Parable, it really has made it positive in its own way as far as creativity and just kind of like and productivity, like you say. Like I literally can't wait to talk to you guys about the Ace Frehley record, and then we got this coming out, and then the Rock and Roll Resonance coming out. I think Matt has a spoken word album coming out. You should put out a spoken word if you haven't thought of it. Yes.
I don't know. He kind of does spoken word every day.
I know. I follow him every day doing that too.
Yeah. No, I'll put a collection of all the things that have been ignored by my wife and kids that I've ever said. It's like the first thing will be a box set retrospective.
Oh man, that's hilarious. And what they're referring to, obviously online, you do different types of, I'll say, seminars and classes, right, that people could sign up and join for.
Yeah, I do coaching work with mostly musicians, but just talking about mindset and business and just kind of the missing pieces, because I think we all have that gap between what kind of gig we're capable of doing, and then the gigs that we actually get. And I'm like, what's that about? Because then there's some guys that are getting gigs we would consider beyond their capabilities, yet they're getting them. And so what are they doing right? That always fascinated me. I was always interested in being the best musician I could be, but also there's guys that are getting a lot of work and they're not the best musician.
Do you think that's a sort of like who you know kind of scenario?
Oh, absolutely.
Like who you're close with?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's definitely your network, and then I think it's mindset too, where some people can have opportunities and they're just going to wreck them somehow, and not necessarily in a hail of bullets. It could just be like, hey, here's my friend Joe. Hey, nice to meet you. Oh, cool. Yeah. Hey, give me a call next week. I want to talk to you. And like, oh, I forgot to call that guy. And it's like, well, there it goes. So yeah. So just
but also like, just like you get one good gig and you do a good job. And then, that guy's like, oh yeah, I work with so he's great, and word of mouth, you got to keep your reputation solid,
Absolutely. That's why I always tell, like even telling someone like Brandon, who's like although he's kind of playing with us anyway, but like I always try to give the advice to anybody younger than me to sort of like, just keep it together. Like there are a lot of guys, it's there are really talented people that I've known who you just can't, they got a drug problem or their girlfriend's a pain in the ass or whatever it is. It's just like a thing, and it's like, and then you'll find the other guy who's not quite as good a player, but he's an awesome dude. When he shows up, he's given 110%, and you just love having him around. That's the guy that's going to get the gig every time, 100%.
No, that makes sense.
Me. That's me. I'm just phoning it in for fucking 40 years.
Easy.
This guy, when we would do Stairway, he would Stairway to Heaven at the rock and roll thing, not fantasy camp. What was it?
Oh, you're talking about
rating the rock vault.
Yeah.
Too many R's. And he would come walking down this ramp, and he'd always come by. We'd make it. I just listen, and I had his voice in my ears. You know what I mean? And it's just like his pitch is ridiculous. It's like perfect. It was always a pleasure. So anyway, he's being very self-deprecating.
It was all on tape.
That's
it was consistent. I guess that's what it was.
Oh,
Consistency's the key. No. Matt, you're too kind.
Hey guys, I got to bounce, guys. I got to go. I got to handle some adult.
Jeremy, you said 10 minutes. You gave us an hour. Thank you so much.
For like an hour, man.
Yeah, love you, Jeremy.
Yeah, man, it was great to hang out with you guys, and I'm excited about this thing, and can't wait until it comes out, and can't wait to see all of you guys in person.
You too.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Tell she's a champ.
Thank you.
That's right. Try to get some sleep and good health to the baby and to your wife.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. So, Todd, I know I had Bruce on a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of months ago, rather, and he had mentioned that you guys might be doing an album. Any news on that?
We've been so that's one thing with this pandemic is that a lot of us, Brandon and these guys, are in one camp where it's kind of like, let's do this, let's push forward, let's make this happen. And then with Bruce and I, it's sort of like, not only that, Zach, who plays in the Bruce band, he's been involved in the Corey Taylor band from Slipknot, and that thing is a monolith, a gargantuan thing as well. So that's really kind of like his time has been monopolized to some degree. And then Fitz, our drummer, is up in Canada. He's been taking care of his family and whatnot. And because of the crossing borders thing is a whole thing. So, so he's been up there. So Bruce and I have been doing what we can. But, it's sort of like, I guess there's a certain element of the pandemic sort of created this sort of like, there's no hurry because we can't really go on the road. We can't do anything. Right. But at the same time, it's also one of the best times to just go, to hell with it. Let's just jump on this and make it happen. So so Bruce and I started writing a bunch of songs. Zach's been writing songs with us as well. And it sounds great. I'm really excited about it. We just kind of have to find, it's a bit of a different mindset in a funny way. Like we're the kind of guys that we get into a room and play, and then we go to a place and we record it. But because that's just not the way things are happening right now. Sure. Well, they are and they aren't. You know what I mean? Like I've done 1 million sessions now since things have kind of opened up. But yeah, it's just kind of like changing that headset. And actually, Bruce is really amazing at his home recording stuff. Like he's way more advanced than I am. So it's just a matter of kind of really focusing it up and doing it. Because the real drag of it is, as you can attest to, is that we are heading into about 1 month away from when the cruise was supposed to be. So for us, it was like a real kick in the dick. We were like, we had all these plans. We're going to do this time. We're going to get this. We're going to record some stuff so maybe we can have it available for the cruise. And then once that all kind of went away, it sort of took away the, I guess the carrot, the hanging that carrot out in front of us was just kind of removed, and we just kind of, we didn't really stop. It just became more and more complicated. So, but we'll get around to it. I'm really excited about the songs we came up with. They're really exciting. And we'd like to do a cover or two probably from his catalog. We'll see.
Nice. To me, if you guys, especially if you covered something like Sword and Stone or something that's not really, that'd be awesome.
Like those are the ones that I'm excited about. Like we did Time Traveler one day, an old demo, things like that. It's a really awesome experiment, that thing, all the time.
Absolutely. And anything with Slash going on now, or is that also a little quiet?
Yeah, we've been writing too. So
awesome.
Basically just he and I.
Nice.
We're the only ones really around. Miles is in Florida working on a solo album. Fitz again is in Canada, but and Frank's out here. But I've been just going back and forth and sort of just making racket, really. But again, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, we sort of had that feeling of like, I talked to the manager and he was sort of like, look, if you guys gave me a record today, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to do with it. I mean, obviously we'd put it out and do the thing, but without live support, as you know, in the music industry today, in the music industry today, being on the road is where everything is. Being out playing music is where everything is. Selling records is kind of a different thing now. So so we're kind of like just trying. I think it's a good time to keep the creativity going, and then hopefully getting something recorded so that when things go back to normal, you have something you can present to the world, kind of thing. So that's the plan.
All right, cool. Well, I'm sure fans will definitely be keeping a lookout for both of those, and hopefully they happen in 2021.
Exactly.
Brandon, I got sidetracked on this before, but I wanted to ask you about the album also. You have a couple of other special guests on the album as well, right?
Yeah, there's 2 other people making guest appearances. There's a track called Lady Danger that features Alex Kane from Enough's Enough. I know he helped write Jermey's song, the vocals for that, but this one he actually plays a guitar solo on. And the same track as well, Eric Jake from Wild Street, who was actually just signed to Golden Robot as well a couple weeks ago. He sings on this song. So, yeah, we got both of them on this track, and it was very fitting because it's a very, like, sleazy 80s song. And, of course, those were 2 really good guys to throw in on a track like that. And then, of course, that track still has the 4 of us on it as well. Every track on the album has the 4 of us on it. So that'll be the only track that has outside players on it as of now. Which, going back to earlier, saying the whole situation changed from when we started with the label. So it kind of turned into a more of a band per se, because we were all doing all the tracks together.
Yep. Now, since we last spoke, Brandon, I know, like you just said, you kind of have a contract with the label. Is it right now just for the one album? Could we expect more of these? I know it's not even out yet, and I'm asking about the next one, but that's the way fans are. We're never satisfied. We want.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, young man?
Don't say screwing your wife. Don't say screwing your wife. We've got an option with the label for a second album. There's an option in there for it, so we'll see what happens with this one. Not trying to really jump the gun on anything, but I was cool with that being in there and everything, because these guys definitely know what they're doing, and plus if everything goes well, why wouldn't we want to try and squeeze out some more material from us? Because like I said, regardless if we ever actually do get on the road because of the world situation or whatever, it's always nice to make music with other good musicians. So I think just fulfilling yourself creatively is a whole other aspect than just diversing yourself into the live music thing. And it's definitely, it all has its factors into what you're trying to do in your own career. So it's all fulfilling. You just got to kind of branch it all together and make it one whole pie.
Absolutely.
And Brandon, you managed to do something that KISS fans probably didn't think possible. So the last few years, there's been like a fun debate. Which band is better? Is it Ace's solo band, or previously Gene's, or Bruce's? And it was always like, well, it's a win-win, right? There's no wrong choice here, right? You managed to somehow bring the 2 of them somewhat together, which I think for KISS fans is like a dream come true.
Yeah, man, and I could not choose between both of those bands. I was literally I was literally just last night before I went to bed. I watched the Carnival of Souls medley you guys did from the last one, and I don't care what anybody says. I love that album. I think "Hate" is one of Gene's best songs ever. That's such a Gene tune, and it's great. And the other stuff on there, I love the track that Bruce sings. It was funny because like one of the only times I've ever actually talked to Bruce was when they were doing the kind of like bracket of 80s Kiss tunes. And it came up Crazy Nights versus I Walk Alone, and Crazy Nights ended up winning, and I commented and I was like, no way is Crazy Nights better than I Walk Alone, and Bruce actually replied back and was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, yes, great.
Oh man, that's good. So Brandon, you're a little younger I think than me. Do you have a favorite Kiss album?
My favorite one, no doubt about it, Hotter Than Hell. It's the production might be dog shit on that album, but it's part of the album. That's part of the reason it's cool.
Agreed.
I've always said that. I've always said that production, if you could remix that now, it would ruin the album.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same album.
Something really big and bombastic and dark about that record that I think it just really works. As a kid, we weren't sitting around going, "This kick drum doesn't sound as good as." It sounded awesome. And
well, don't say that to Matt because you might have just offended him.
Well, Matt's more of an audiophile than I am.
Yeah, I'll say, I always liked the songs on that record, but my favorite Kiss album was Rock and Roll Over. It just felt like they could have recorded 20
they ever did.
Yeah, and they could have recorded 20 songs on that record. I would have listened to every single one. It just felt right. The tones are right. Technically the production is just fine, but it sounds real, which is cool.
Yep.
But as I get older, and then I had a phase where the Rock Hotter Than Hell just did not sound right. But now I listen to it and it's like, they were going for a Sabbath thing clearly because the guitars, there's not a lot of high end. It's like a Roger Bain production.
It's all mids,
totally.
basically.
But when I listen to it on this system,
easy for him to say.
That's right. So while we're waiting for Matt maybe to unfreeze or come back, what about you, Todd? Do you have a favorite Kiss album?
You know what's funny is I just had this conversation yesterday. And I've been around this thing for so long, and I've had my Love Gun phase and my Rock and Roll Over phase and my Hotter Than Hell phase. But lately what I've been really the one I've been running up the flagpole that everybody wants to have a long conversation with me about is the first album. And I'll tell you why, because it's easier for me to just kind of land on Kiss Alive, what I mean, which really had such an impact. It really had all the impact that sort of started all of this basically for me, but because it sort of works as a greatest hits, it's a collection of those first three records, because there's elements of Dress to Kill that I really love in the same way that Rock and Roll Over, those really they just sound like a real rock band, you know what I mean? But the thing that I have to give to the first Kiss album every single time is the fact that probably 90% of the record is what we would refer to as classic songs. Like you could play any of those songs right now, Do Strutter, Black Diamond, Cold Gin, watch
100,000 Years, Firehouse, Let Me Know.
Firehouse. Yeah, like any of those songs are like, there's something to be said about how classic they are, but the fact that you could put them in the set list right now and no one would miss a beat. Like it'd be like you could, if you played that album top to bottom, obviously Kiss in Time and that later version that they put out, and Let Me Know never really gets played very much.
Except for the second half of Let Me Know, which is She.
They attach that to She at the end of the guitar with the guitar solo. Yeah, absolutely. That's I don't know why, but now when I go back and it's like the tempos are slower, the guitars are too clean, but I keep thinking to myself like how, because that's a long conversation. Led Zeppelin 1, the Ramones' first album. There's a lot of talk about like those bands that had so much time to write that first album. They're playing in clubs, basically just kind of like working up that material. And then when they finally get in the studio, all this time, that's why when you look at the time difference between Kiss first album to Hotter Than Hell to Dress to Kill, like those albums are all so close together that they started running out of time to write songs. So things like She were pulled out of the Wicked Lester thing and stuck in there. Love Her All I Can and stuff like that. You know,
Mhm.
it's like
Which Love Her All I Can, I think, is Ace's most underrated solo of all time.
Interesting.
That is,
I know.
Mhm.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing about Ace Frehley in general is that he's the most underrated guitar player of all time, in my opinion.
he
Probably.
should taught me how to solo.
He's one of my favorite. Like whenever you're jamming, if you're just playing acoustic guitar with your friend and you're playing Kiss songs, you can always sing the solo.
Sure. Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
You know, I'm always like, I do it all the time. We sing the entire solo from top to bottom. It's a real piece, you know.
Mhm. Absolutely. I want to
Alright,
thank you
cool.
both for doing this. Thank you, Brandon. Any last words you want to leave us on the album?
I guess just go check out the lyric video and pump those numbers up. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the music
I think
video
that's
is
about
being
it.
worked on as we speak. So hopefully the music video will be out sometime at the end of the month, maybe next month.
Awesome.
I would say sometime in October, definitely
Yeah.
for sure.
Awesome.
And
Well-
then it'll probably be sometime in November is when Home will be released. So probably about Thanksgiving time.
Awesome.
So we got a bunch of stuff that we're going to be able to keep people busy with. So once one song comes out, we'll put something else out, like a video or something. So people aren't going to get bored of one thing and, oversaturated. So trying to keep everybody on the toes. But
Better get that helicopter ready for that Home video. We got to find a mountain.
That's right. That's right.
go see if you can get that guitar that slashed through off the
Yeah.
mountain.
We'll throw it again.
There you go. There you go.
Actually, I'm pretty sure they got that at the Rainbow. I'm pretty sure.
I think that's something like that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
it's like
question.
it's all glued back together or something that they
Oh,
did. I'm
man.
pretty sure. So
Well,
I wouldn't know that. I don't know that much about GNR, so I'll have to go ask them.
Kiss and Guns N' Roses, I don't know anything
and
about
nothing
that.
about. Well, I want to I'll thank you both, and obviously, Matt and Jeremy, if you guys are watching this online, I thank you guys as well, and I'm honored that you guys did the first Minefield chat with me. I appreciate that, and much success with the record. Todd, it was a pleasure having you on the show for the first time. Brandon, I'm so glad to have you back. It was a great chat, and like I said, best luck.
My first podcast ever was with you, and the first podcast this band ever did was with you. So
Oh,
it was
look at
kind
that.
of fitting. So
Uh,
I appreciate you letting us share your platform with you.
Absolutely. So thank you guys both. I really appreciate it. It was great, and good luck, like I said, with the record.
So appreciate it, Mike.
All right, take it easy, guys. All right, take it easy. Bye-bye. Alrighty, there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Minefield. Go check out their video on YouTube, and I can certainly say that all the fans are excited to hear what's coming next. I'd like to extend a personal thank you to each of the band members for joining me on the show. Todd, it was an honor to finally have you on the show. I really appreciated it and had a lot of fun. To Brandon, Matt, and Jeremy, it was great to have you guys back on again. And Jeremy, I'd like to extend an extra thank you to you. I know you said you'd spend about 10 minutes with us because of the birth of your child, and you ended up spending nearly an hour. Thanks a lot, Jeremy. I really appreciated it. And Matt, little did we know at the time, but we were having a little bit of problems with your video feed, but I tried to salvage as much as I could from the video, but at least we could hear all of your audio and all the great stories that you shared. Thanks a lot, Matt. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to thank Brandon for once again joining me on my show. It was a lot of fun, Brandon, hearing all about the stories behind these songs and how the band came together. And I wish you and all the guys nothing but success with this album. It's great, and I think the fans are really going to love it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.